Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to meet a branding virtuoso who's been in the game since middle school. Straight from Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, please welcome Chris Heine, the brand boss and the CEO of Bond Branded Gear. This man's journey from grass cutter to swag sultan is nothing short of legendary. With a slogan that packs a punch, building brands that bond, Chris has transformed his family business into a branding powerhouse. From first choice uniforms to Bond Branded Gear, Chris has been crafting connections and forging identities for over 2 decades. And now with his daughter on board, he's taken the family legacy to new heights. Let's hear it for the wizard of wearables, the guru of gear, the one and only Chris Heine. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jarrett. That intro is like magical. I got chills and I'm all pumped up now. I feel good. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Well, you are the Bond boss or the brand boss.
Brand boss. That's
let's
right.
talk about that for a second. Like you got kind of a James Bond-esque type of mantra, type of flavor. Talk about where that came from.
Yeah. Well, actually, when we were rebranding, that was one of the names on my list. So we actually did a full rebrand and rename, which is a very hard thing to do. If you haven't been through it, we have been named first choice uniforms and promotional products for 34 years. So changing your name has a lot of limiting beliefs. You're like, is this the right thing to do? And it's scary. And you see logos and names and you're like, what do I call it? So it's very challenging, but one of the names on my list was Brand Boss. And oddly enough, my daughter, Aaliyah, who is working for me and she's my director of operations now, she actually calls me boss. She's like, what's up, boss? And I got you, boss. And it's just funny. So I'm like, I need to call myself Brand Boss because it's just memorable and it sticks out. And again, if anyone's a brand boss, it's me. I've been doing this since 8th grade. So
yeah. I love it. I love your style. I think that's kind of why we vibe. I don't have quite the tattoo resume that you have, but someday I could work up to that.
Yeah, we're gonna get you one. Yeah,
I'm gonna get your approval before I do that. Let me throw you a question here. You've been in the branding game for a long time. What makes a really good brand?
That's a great question. I think a great brand is something. It's not just the logo. It's the culture of the company. The team, the staff, what they stand for, their core values, all of those things really tie into it. But as far as logo goes and look, I'm like big on having an icon is really important. So for Bond, this is our icon, which is a hexagon of our B inside, which oddly enough looks like kind of like the shape of Minnesota, which was a happy accident. But we actually created core values for all of the points of our hexagon, which is kind of cool. So it kind of has some deeper meaning, but I'm all about clean and simple. In fact, right now we're doing a rebrand for a company. I have a creative director in-house and it's a heating and cooling company. And the person in marketing is having a hard time because she's sending over these van images with like this cartoon character guy. And it's like 20 colors and it's this giant design, and we're trying to convey to her that you can't put that like on the left chest of a shirt. So a lot of like artists don't think about placement, number of colors, how is this going to increase my client's cost with printing? Any of those things will look good digitally on a computer screen or a van, but you have to think about the other aspects, all of those smaller items. Man, some of our promotional products like pens have like a 3/4 inch imprint area. So it's super small. So you kind of need to have that basic logo as well. That's super clean, not a ton of colors.
I'm you're in the design business, which what you just talked about was really how they're placed on gear. And we'll get into that because that's your specialty. But, talk about what a brand should express, what it should communicate, because whether you have a company that has a logo on the breast of a shirt or not, we're all kind of standing for our own personal brands and businesses. What should that express? What should that communicate?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I think it really depends on the industry that they're in. When I meet with someone, I ask a lot of qualifying questions. What business are you in? How many employees do you have? How long you've been in business? All of those things, kind of getting their brand guidelines so that I have all of their Pantone colors and what I can do and can't do with their logo. Those are all really important things. But when you're looking at a company that's maybe more blue collar, like construction, plumbers, HVAC, roofing, siding, they're in a completely different type of uniform than a Fortune 500 company or a US bank. So it's really important that, you know, if it's a blue collar company and these guys are getting dirty and they're rubbing up against houses and roofs and climbing under decks, they need a uniform that's going to stand the test of time, that's going to last, that's going to be good in the elements. So there's so many factors. Where if I'm looking at a company like US Bank, who I do a lot of business with, they're typically high-end executives. They want like the primo nice stuff. So premium, high quality apparel, stuff that they're not going to see anywhere else. So one of the things that Bond has done is we've gone out and curated relationships with boutique brands that aren't available in our industry. So right away, it sets me apart from everyone else. So it's been a really fun part of what we've done here.
How do you express your logo is the hex B? What are you trying to express just in that very simple graphic?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, obviously the B, it stands for Bond. But when you look at the logo, I'll kind of get up closer. There we go. There's actually movement with like arrows inside the logo. As I mentioned, each point of the hexagon represents our core values. So each point has a core value attached to it. So there's definitely a lot of symbolism there. The hexagon also in nature is like the strongest shape. If you look at honeycombs, they're made of hexagon. It has a really strong value to it. You know, it carries weight. So it's kind of powerful in that way.
Let me ask you a personal question. You know, you're talking about the brand of your company and the thought that goes into that. Like Chris Heine, like what's his brand? Who's he at a brand level using this type of verbiage?
Ask that again. I didn't quite understand.
So like who are, you know, I asked one of my guests one time, I was like, who are you? You know, I'm just trying to get down to the core because again, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're a family owner, you know, like you're a cool dude, you know, you got a really cool vibe. You know, who are you? What is the brand that you, Chris Heine, is trying to represent and broadcast to the world?
For sure. Who I am is a very hardworking dad, husband, entrepreneur. When I'm someone's friend, if someone's my client, I will die for them. I will do everything in my power to elevate their brand to a whole new level. If someone's my friend and they need me, I am there for them. Like, you need me to like fight off a bunch of dudes, Jarrett, I'm there for you. That's who I am.
Open that offer someday.
Yeah, I've always said, you know, one of my kind of mantras is I say what I do and I do what I say. So that's kind of sums up who I am.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I want to get into kind of the business and the transition of the business, but you had a bit of a shift, you know, in your personal life, in your business life. COVID, which kind of was a wake up call to a lot of people, including myself. Talk about that shift a little bit and some of the things that you learned and the person that you are pre-COVID versus post-COVID.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, I'm 47 years old. When COVID hit, it's been 4 years now. So I was around 43 and I was kind of in a complacent point in my life, not compared to most people's standards, but for my standards, I was kind of kicking my feet up and just enjoying and not working super hard. And again, compared to most people, I worked very hard, but I wasn't pushing to my full potential. And then COVID happened and it was like a light switch. Instantly overnight, we lost about 60% of our revenue. Thank God that we're strong in uniforms. Otherwise, it would have been even more because a lot of the uniforms that we were selling were essential. So that kept us in the game. But, you know, rather than die, and again, it was a challenging moment when you lose 60% of your revenue and you're talking about, you know, millions of dollars. It's definitely a challenge. But rather than die, I chose to kind of reinvent myself. So I actually built a gym in my garage at home and hit my fitness even harder. I've been working out since I was a kid, but again, a lot of people turned into alcoholics and got really fat during COVID, where I got just shredded, jacked, and worked even harder. And that also kept my mind strong, you know, during those times so that I didn't break. Again, the mind aspect of being an entrepreneur is so important. It's one of the most lonely journeys that you can have, and you're going to have adversity after adversity. So your ability to overcome those adversities is essential. The other thing that we did is we set out on the rebrand, which we talked about a little bit so far. I always hated our old name. I needed something that represented me and who I am and who the company is. So I set out on this journey. I actually hired a company, and she interviewed several of our top customers and said, why do you do business with Chris and his team at First Choice? And they all had the same common answer. It was because of the relationship and the bond that we shared with them. I mean, I have customers like Plunkett's Pest Control that have been with us for over 30 years. And that's not an accident. And that's because of that relationship and because they know I'm going to have their back and do everything in my power to make their brand shine, to elevate it to a whole new level. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. You touched on a lot of things there. The mental game of not only business, but the mental game of life, keeping your physical body going. One thing that what you just touched on, it really resonated, where you said, why have they continued to do business with you? And that's because of the experience and the bond.
Right.
And you did a rebrand and you put bond in there. And so what I'm seeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you are experiencing the fruits of what I love to call being in alignment, where like you at your core being is being represented through your company and even through your logo and your brand, not only from a business aspect, but from a physical body aspect. How would you describe that or articulate that point?
Which part? The physical body part of it?
How they all kind of encompass together. They're all working together. It's not these compartments of life. It's all one brand working together.
Yeah, they definitely all do work together. So just to kind of give you some insight. So in my industry, the ad specialty industry, there's over 30,000 competitors in my space. The market is so saturated. We all have access to the same products, the same items. So I'm like, how do we stand out with a saturated market like this? Again, 30,000. So that's 600 in every state, so, and again, this is a lot of industries, right? So number one is the relationship. That's how we stand out. Also, I've gone out and curated those brands that no one else is doing. I've dove heavy into social media and doing content, talking about the process, and that develops a relationship over the internet, which is crazy. I mean, the reach that it has. I mean, I've been on podcasts all over the country. I'm actually speaking at an event next month called Brand X in Phoenix, Arizona. And this is just all of these things that I'm doing are leading to more opportunities, and it's expanding my reach, getting to people that I would have never otherwise met. So it's been really, really cool. And I think our brand screams me and definitely represents me, and it's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. I think that when your brand, we're using that term in terms of life and how you express yourself and what you do in and out of the office is true and authentic. That's really what makes the connection, and that's what I see and hear in your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been doing this for a long time. Like, just talk about just the business in general. Like, you're in product design and promotional products. Like, how has that business changed in the last 20 or 30 years since you started the game?
Yeah. So back in like 1990, when I was a kid and I worked in the business, I cut grass, I cleaned, I did shipping and receiving. I worked in our production, and I had no intent on working for the family business. Anyone who's worked for a family business knows that it can be challenging. You kind of butt heads with, my dad was the one who ran the company, and he was kind of the old school pound your fist owner. And I was obviously quite different generation. And I had a lot of those values in me, but I knew that, things had to be run differently as I moved forward. But 22 years ago, my wife and I, we actually were pregnant with our daughter, Aaliyah. We weren't married. We have a baby on the way. And I'm like, man, I better grow up quick and start making some money. So I started selling for First Choice. And again, I was hungry. I had a new family on the way. So I'm like, I got to get my stuff together. So my first year, I sold about 500,000. My second year, I did about 750,000. My third year, I did $1 million, and I've just grown ever since. And I purchased the company about 17 years ago, and we've tripled in size, and now we're really in scale mode. But to answer your question about the industry, it's changed significantly with products. Back in 1990, it was a high-end polo, was an Outer Banks polo. You probably remember them. They were tricolor. The collar would be like burgundy. The shirt would be forest, and then it would have like navy on the cuffs, and these things were hideous. They only came in men's sizes, so women didn't even have ladies' cuts. So that wasn't an option. There were no brand names. The promotional products were all the CPS, which stands for cheap plastic shit, which I hate. I don't want to do those for anyone.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. You'll hear tchotchke. I hate that word as well, because again, when I'm doing a promotional product for someone, I want this product to replace whatever they're currently using. You know, if it's a mug, I want them to go, this is like the coolest mug I've ever seen. If it's a hat, I want them to put it on their head and be proud to wear it. So that's my mentality with every customer that I work with.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that's really, really cool. You've incorporated your daughter Aaliyah into the business.
Yeah.
What's I don't want to say, you know, I don't give away like your end game or what your business plan is, but like your wife works in the office with you as well. Like, talk about the dynamics of that and some of the lessons that you've learned through that process.
For sure. Yeah. It's obviously, you know, working with family can have its challenges. We've managed to do it really well. Our family is like so tight. I have 2 kids. My son Roman is 16. My daughter Aaliyah is 21. My wife Dawn works in the business in customer experience, which is our form of customer service, and also bookkeeping. So it's been great. You know, we've grown together. We've obviously had a ton of challenges with business and things. Those are always going to come and always going to happen. They never go away. As soon as you can reframe that, like in your mind, it changes the game for you. So learning how to understand those adversities when they've come and been like, I've been here before. I can get over this hump. I can handle this. This is nothing. So once you reframe it like that, everything changes. It changes your whole mindset and how you feel in these situations. My daughter Leah is 21. She is a remarkable young lady. She actually was one of the COVID kids, I guess you could call him. So her main sport in high school was track and field. Her junior year, she didn't even get to run or even set foot in school. She never went to school her junior or senior year. Everything was online, which is weird. So no prom, not seeing friends, not having that normal social interaction. So it was definitely a challenging time, but up came her senior year and she was like, Dad, I don't even know if I want to run track. And I'm like, Aaliyah, I'm like, God gave you a gift. I'm like, you are going to regret this the rest of your life if you don't give it everything you have your senior year. So as I mentioned earlier, I built a gym in my garage. We actually named it the Beef Castle. We made a logo, which actually had an arm like flexing in it with like a castle around it. It was pretty funny. And it was initially a joke, but it kind of turned into a whole thing. And I got carried away and I built, it was probably about a $40,000, $50,000 gym. And it was awesome. And then our whole family's into fitness. Neighbors used it. Again, it helped with mental health during COVID and all of those times during the lockdowns. Man, I am not a person who's good at sitting around. So I definitely needed that.
Yeah.
She worked her butt off. She got just yoked, shredded, strong. She worked on her diet. And her senior year came around and her times just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And she was the top 1 or 2 sprinter in the entire state of Minnesota for the 100, the 200, and then the 4x100 relay. In fact, she went to state in all 3 of her events, and she ended up getting, I believe, 3rd in the 100, and all 3 of the girls were within inches apart. It was an awesome race. And I think she got 2nd in the 200, and the 4x100 was remarkable. So she had 2 8th graders and a 9th grader. And then my daughter was the anchor. And she goes, Dad, she goes, I have a feeling that she's like, I've had this vision that I'm going to get the baton and I'm going to be behind. So I told the girls, just get me the damn baton, no matter what. Don't drop it and I'll do the rest. And sure enough, they come around the last leg and they're behind. She was behind by probably 30 or 40 yards. And she got the baton and just had this look on her face and was gone. And she ended up passing every single girl and won the state. 4x100 and manifested exactly what she said. So it was like chills, and there was all these Division I schools there recruiting her, and they all saw that, and it was literally the whole stadium was just like cheering, and it was just goosebumps. It was a pretty cool moment, so I'll never forget that. But she ended up getting a full scholarship offer from the University of St. Thomas, so it was their first year of division track, and she was big on not getting vaccinated, and we are as well. And so when we were getting recruited by them, we asked them that question. Will she have to get vaccinated? And they're like, no. So we ended up signing with them, and she signed a national letter of intent. And a week before school's about to start, they kind of dropped on us, hey, if you want to run with the team, you have to get vaccinated. So I kind of tried to do some problem solving. I'm not going to incriminate myself on camera, but I'm always trying to find solutions. So I found a couple areas where I could help her, but they were like, you still can't run with the team even with these solutions. So she ended up going on the transfer portal and transferred to NDSU and ran a season at North Dakota State University. And she was all conference in 3 of her events. But at the end of the year, she was like hurt her foot. She had actually torn her big toe. So it was the ligament that attaches it was completely torn. And she was telling them the whole season, like, my foot's messed up. And they're like, oh, you're fine. It's just a bunion. But literally her toe was like disconnected. And she, at the end of the year, she's like, Dad, I hate Fargo. I'm bored up here. I'm ready to work. I don't want to be in school anymore. I'm ready to get on with my life. As I mentioned, she's really mature and she's an exceptional young lady. So I'm like, Aaliyah, I've got a spot for you. So I brought her on as part of our customer experience team. And she did customer experience for probably her first like 4 to 6 months. And then I kind of pushed her into sales, got her into some networking groups, and started kind of passing her some leads as well. And she just excelled at that. And as we grow in, and she's got my back, and she's smart and has ideas and is driven. And she's working literally Monday through Sunday, like 70, 80 hours a week, like pushing hard. And that is not normal for a 21-year-old. So we actually just recently made a big transition in the business. We had a person in our company who had been here for quite some time that just didn't quite have the right mindset and attitude that we wanted, and seemed like they didn't care. So we actually got rid of them, and I promoted Aaliyah to my director of operations, and she is killing it. So her and I together are like the dynamic duo. We're a great team. We've already done so much, and we're going to do a lot more. So it's really, really fun, and we have a great relationship. We have fun doing it, and it's just going to be great. The future's bright.
It's a really cool story. I love hearing that. And I've got kids, as you know, not quite as old as your kids, but Dean Graciosi brought up a term one time. He talked about work-life integration. I think when we were growing up, work-life balance was kind of like a theme coming, up and coming, and a lot of books written on that. I think the world has changed. I think that you're able, and I say we as parents and business owners and just people in general that are high achievers, I think that there are ways to integrate that. Again, as I hear your story of Aaliyah, that kind of started with building a gym and letting your life and fitness, Chris, not just be your life, but also your kids' life. And
yeah.
I love that. You know what I mean? Like that's what helped build her into a strong young lady she is today.
For sure. But even like as a kid, like when she was little, we would bring her to Anytime Fitness has been a customer of ours for 18 years. So every year they would have a national conference, and we would set up kind of a mock apparel store. And, our biggest sale there was about $200,000 of apparel in 3 days, which is insane. It was like Black Friday, people coming in, but we would bring her there, and she's running, a iPad kind of cash register and checking people out and upselling them and developing relationships and talking to adults, at a young age. Mm-hmm. So all of those lessons of her, us bringing her around people and learning how to develop relationships, how to sell, how to, service people, all of those things I think were crucial. And again, that's why she's way ahead of most of her peers at 21 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's awesome. I love seeing that. I'm inspired by that. And I can't tell you just like how that warms my heart as a father when I see,
Yeah. And
know,
I see you doing it, Jared. You're doing the right thing. I see you with your kids playing, you're working out, you're doing all the same things. So your kids are going to have that because they've had this role model of this strong father who's been there spiritually, mentally, physically, everything. So that's what it takes, especially in this world. It's a weird world that we're in right now. And there needs to be more people like us that care and that give it their all and are kind of those 1% type people that want to push to a whole new level in their family relationships, their marriage, their business, their friends, their finance, fitness, everything. You have to always be pushing to that whole new level.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that, I think people get into this dichotomy thinking where it's like, I want to have a business, so therefore I have to sacrifice my family. I want to go to the gym and be healthy, so therefore I have to sacrifice time with my family. I just don't subscribe to that. At least I don't any longer.
Yeah.
There's ways to do that. I think people listening to this show, let that be a word of encouragement. Can you get creative?
Right.
And integrate that type, again, so your brand, to use your verbiage, Chris, like your brand as a human being is your family is able to engage with that brand as well.
For sure. Absolutely. And I'm in the same boat as you. I do not buy into that. Even, growing up with business, and then I, was selling for First Choice at 23 years old. We bought the company, 17 years ago. So it's like, and I owned an Anytime Fitness at the same time and a property company. However, through that whole time, I never missed one of my son's hockey games. I never missed any of Aaliyah's track meets, her basketball games, her plays, orchestra, anything. I was there for everything. And I was there also present at home where I played Legos with them. I made duct tape purses with my daughter. I have always been present. And I think that's why our family has like this tight, bond and relationship is because of that. And again, it's not easy and not a lot of moms or dads do that, but I think it's essential and key to do that with your children and your family. And that's how you create that strong, everlasting bond that will last forever.
Yeah. Amen. Couldn't agree with you more. And I think it starts with not buying into the mindset that it has to be one or the other. It doesn't. If you believe that it does, it will. But if you believe that it doesn't have to be that way, that opens up the door and opportunities for you to do it the other way.
Yeah. I watched the Michael Jordan documentary. I don't know if you've seen that, but in there, him and his trainer, who I actually have met, Tim Grover, he's actually an awesome guy, but he says if you want to be the best, you have to sacrifice your family, your relationships. It's okay to be a jerk. And I don't buy into that. It's just, that's not who I am. And I don't need to be successful if I have to sacrifice those things.
Yeah.
So for me, integrity is really important.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially in the motivational business entrepreneurship world. It's like there's this badge of honor that I worked 100 hours a week and didn't see my family for 10 years to build my business. I understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. There's sacrifice, there's grit. I understand that.
Right.
And again, but that doesn't have to be way on the edge to still get the success that you want. I don't know.
For sure.
Maybe there are certain people who are wired like that, and that's what they need.
Yeah.
What depends on what your goals are. I don't know. How would you articulate that?
Yeah, I'm not sure why they're like that. There is stages like right now. Don and I are almost empty nesters. Roman is 16. He has 2 years left of high school. Aaliyah's working for us. She has her own place. She's fully grown and can take care of herself. And now I'm able to work more and I don't have to worry about track meets and games as much. Roman still is playing hockey, so I will not miss any of his games this year. He'll more than likely be playing for Orono High School, which will be fun. And I'm excited to watch his last kind of 2 years of competitive hockey.
Well, I'm not that. I'm about your age. I'm just a hair younger, and I've got a 1-year-old at home.
Yeah,
all 4 of my kids are still in the house, so it's a delicate balance of like really pushing life to the max.
Yeah,
looking for someday, but yet having the presence to be able to find those times where I'm going to grind
Yeah.
Be in the present moment where it gives me the freedom to enjoy the moments that I need to embrace every single day.
For sure. Yeah. And I think you're doing it. I meant the fact that you're aware of it, you're already ahead of the game. And that's half the battle, is just being aware of it and going, I have to show up like this. I have to be there. I have to be present. That's, half the battle.
Right. I love this conversation. Let's start landing this plane here. Yeah. Give people, again, we're trying to help people live life undeferred, take life to the next level, not wait for someday to step into our greatness. Perhaps based on your testimony from COVID and some of the things that the pandemic showed you, what would be kind of your number one piece of advice for high achievers, entrepreneurs, people who want to start a business, maybe been in business, that they can do to kind of take that next step into a life that's in alignment like you?
Oh, I've got a lot of input on this. So number one is fitness. Your body fuels your mind, your spirit, your soul. If you're not in peak physical condition, you can't do big things. You're going to wear out. You're going to burn out. I have a motor that just keeps going at 47 years old, and I can still do things physically that most younger kids can't. So I'm super proud of that. Second, the other thing I really tapped into during COVID is the mental part. So I dove heavy into books, podcasts, learning how to speak on stages. So I've done several masterminds with high-level people teaching me how to deliver my message in a positive way, having the right inflection in my tone, learning to tell my story and other stories. So that's very important. And then just always trying to be better with business and life, always growing, never being complacent. The other thing I would say is who you surround yourself with is who you are. And we've all heard that expression, and that's so important. So I want to hang out with people that are better than me, that are on a whole different level, that can teach me something, that challenge me. So that's very important to me as well. And then the other part is alcohol. I rarely drink alcohol anymore because I think it's poison, it's toxic. Most of people's worst decisions in life come from drinking, and it's not going to help me get to where I want to be. And that's something that I chose to, really give up, other than the occasional glass of wine here and there. But I rarely drink anymore. So.
Well, some juicy nuggets there for everybody to chew on here as we round out this show. But if I have to recap this episode, you're a guy who is all about brands, but also living out his brand in a true, authentic way.
That's right.
And you're experiencing the fruits of that, not only in your own life, but also your family's life as well. So congratulations on your
Thank
story.
you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Before I let you go, tell people where people can find more about you and where you like to hang out online.
Yeah, absolutely. On Instagram, it's at Chris and then Heine. My last name is Heine official. And then our Bond page on Instagram is at Bond Branded Gear. And our website is bondbrandedgear.com. And again, if you guys are looking to elevate your brand to a whole new level, if you need help with anything, I'm a great resource. I've been in this game for over 34 years. I've seen it all, done it all. And our company is doing big things. And again, we're all about the relationship. I don't want to work with people that are looking for the cheapest person and are all transactional. I want that relationship, with people that really want to work with us and develop a relationship and take their business to new heights as well.
I love it, brother. Great job today. And also too, I know you do logos, but do you design sleeve tattoos for me? Could you handle that?
Yeah, I have some ideas for you.
I'd love to hear that. What do you see? I want to wrap this up, but what do you see? What comes to mind?
I think we need to maybe do Sebesta right here. So I actually did Bond right on my arm there. So maybe Sebesta.
Right along my forearm line.
Maybe Anchorman somewhere. We gotta bring that back in.
Do a shout out to Ron Burgundy.
Exactly. No, we can come up with some stuff. Maybe the kids, that's always important to incorporate the kids in there and your faith, things like that. So there's a lot of ideas. We can work on that.
We'll save this for episode 2. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.